Thank you for listening to this episode. Make sure you come back for the next episode covering the points of this conversation.
And follow the podcast on social media by finding @PrestigiouSPod.
Follow me, Mr. Kent, at Mr. Chris R. Kent.
Follow me, Chris Beane, at Chris Beane Official.
Join our Discord for exclusive content and personal interactions.
And if you'd like to be coached on how to live a more prestigious life, you can reach out to me, Chris Beane, on one of my social media platforms, or by emailing the podcast directly at prestigiousInitiative@gmail.com.
Lastly, sign up for our newsletter either through social media or on our website.
This is the Prestigious Initiative. Welcome. I'm Chris Beane, and today with me is Mr. Kent. Hello, Mr. Kent.
Hello, Mr. Beane.
So today, as we are on episode 70, welcome, by the way. Thanks for listening for this length of time. We're excited to do something different today. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to ask each other a question. And throughout the episode today, we're going to discuss how we interact and how we think and how we would go about answering that question. And the question is, how do you maintain motivation and stay committed to your goals when you're faced with challenges or setbacks? So, Mr. Kent, I'll let you kind of start us off. Do you have any and I mean, don't give it all away yet. Don't answer the question right now. We gotta let it build and just talk about, let us journey on this conversation together. Start us off.
Yes, sir. I initially, when posed with that question, my answer is that I do not do it well. And so as the episode progresses and we can get into a little bit more of it, I think that would be my first initial thought is I'm not very good at maintaining motivation and staying committed to my goals when something doesn't go as quote unquote planned or something stands in my way. It's easy for me to make excuses and kind of back away from those things that I kind of initially planned to do. There are some things that I can rely on to help me get back on those goals and deal with that. But usually there's definitely a time when, something happens or it doesn't go the way I want it to go, where there's a definitive dip in motivation or, productivity toward goals or things that I set out to do.
Okay, so that's a pretty good place. The dip in motivation or productivity. As we go through the day, we have times that we're more productive through the day and times that we're less productive or more motivated or less motivated depending on the time of day. And I would also equate, perhaps maybe I'm extracting a little bit much, but I would also say that there's times of the week, month, quarter, year that you're more productive than others. And maybe that coincides with the weather outside. Like right now where it's kind of gloomy-ish. We're soon going to be, by the time this is airing, it's going to be spring, but we're not quite in spring yet. So it's kind of gloomy. So probably the productivity during the wintertime is down in comparison to the productivity in the summertime, right? Would you agree with that motivation?
Typically, yes, sir. Yeah.
So I think that part of that would be a structuring issue. I would imagine you could probably reorder the goals that you have for the year or the things that you would like to accomplish through the year and put maybe some easy wins, some easy successes towards the beginning of the year when it's kind of gloomy and nasty outside. And then you kind of ramp up by the time summer's here where you're more motivated, you're more apt to get the work done. Not to mention because you had those easy wins that you put into the year early on, early in the quarter, early in the the gloomy time. You set those easy wins up for yourself. You have that excitement, that motivation from checking those boxes or accomplishing those seemingly small things or smaller things. Then you can move on to the more challenging thing, the more daunting tasks as the time progresses. And so that would be a way to kind of work with the ebbs and flows of your balanced motivation and motivation to your benefit.
Sure. Is that something you do in your own time?
I think I do. I haven't necessarily thought about it like that until just right now. I was kind of working that out in my head as I was sharing that. I think probably I do, and I use those small motivations, those small wins as motivation to continue on through the rest. I don't know that I for a long time I haven't set like a quote unquote New Year's resolution because I don't think that that's probably the best way to do it. For a long time, I've had some kind of lofty, far off kind of goals that I've made consistent strive towards achieving. And I kind of set up some milestones that are in line with those, some daily practices that are in line with those to help me along the path. So yes, I would say that I probably give myself some easy wins, sort of say in the beginning of the year, and then do some heavy lifting, quote unquote, in the summertime where things are a little bit more, where it's a little bit easier to gain that motivation.
I like what you said. Maybe it wasn't intentional, but maybe for a lot of people too, they just start the year off that way. They start the year off fresh, quote unquote. They have their New Year's resolutions. They do a reset of their kind of structure, their system or whatever, and over time it just kind of gradually builds up. And I think the important thing about what you're saying is having that kind of peak or that milestone in the summer, or maybe even spring or fall or whatever, of being your height of a goal, or your peak of that goal, or the top of that kind of productivity. But then also adjusting for the end of the year when it starts to get kind of slower and as you said, gloomy, or as things start to slow down as you kind of reset. I think that may be a important thing to kind of implement as well, is don't try to work up and then try to maintain that up for forever, because I think that again might be a difficult thing to do, especially with the change of seasons, or just the sheer amount of effort it's going to take to stay up that high for a very long time. So maybe it does need to work more like a wave kind of. So you have your slower months, or your slower time that works up to this peak of a goal, or this peak productivity, and then it kind of slowly ramps down a little bit. You can kind of reset and readjust your schedule and your goals and your daily practices until you reach up again. And it kind of has that kind of wave type mentality. And rather than being discouraged by that, implementing that and making that on purpose, so you structure your life that way. I work toward this thing, I give myself a little bit of a break. I work toward this thing, give myself a little bit of a break. So then, once you reach that peak, you're not discouraged because, oh my gosh, I fell off, or oh my gosh, I'm not nearly as productive as I was. But rather, you've made it that way. That's your plan, is to have that ebb and flow. And within that, I think maybe that might help to maintain productivity and, help you to stay committed to your goals, because you're not so set back by those lulls or those low times, because you anticipated it, you planned for it, and you understand that's part of the process, whether that be in your day, in your week, in your month, in your year, however it is. Kind of planning for that, noticing that trend, and again, using that to your advantage rather than letting it become something that is negative or discouraging. I think maybe a good strategy to implement.
Well, I think you're talking about the waves, and I think it would be very difficult for any human that I can think of to rise their productivity to a point where they're at the peak and then maintain that over a length of time. At some point, you're going to get burnt out, you're going to get tired, or something's going to happen and you're going to fall off. So understand that those are going to be like waves, and you're going to have peaks where you're on top of it, and then you're going to have times where you're not quite as on top of it. You got to climb back up, and maybe hopefully that's always a moving in an upward trajectory. So you can't see my hand motion, but I'm doing a peak and wave, a wave and crest, the bottom, a high and low. How about that? A high and low, but it's on an upward trajectory. So each time my high is higher than the last high that I had. And it would be almost, again, impossible to get to a peak and just ride that peak out the whole time. And you wouldn't want that anyways, because if you're just maintaining one level of high efficiency, then you're at one level. It would, in my eyes, be better to have a high level followed by a lower level, and then followed by a higher level and a lower level, and so on, so that you're climbing up. Maybe those are some odd words to use, but hopefully you can see the motion that I'm doing. That would be the way to do that. Another way to plug another episode of ours. We had one that we did just recently where we talked about the visionary goal setting system, and I think this ties right into that, to try to foresee some potential challenges or setbacks that might happen, and then in your head work out some ways that you are going to overcome those things. And those probably are not going to be the ones exactly that are going to happen the way that, you think that they're going to happen. But what that'll do is that'll give you an opportunity to think about that goal in a little bit different light. Kind of like, hey, this, it's kind of like saying this is going to get tough. And when it gets tough, this is how it might be tough. But I'm committed to achieve this goal, even though this thing might happen. And how am I going to get back on the path to that goal if and when this happens? Okay, I'm going to do these things. Okay, great. What that's doing is that is giving you some encouragement for when life happens. Life, I thought about this as I was doing some writing over the weekend. Life is like climbing uphill, blindfolded, and there's random booby traps and pitfalls throughout the way, but you're blindfolded the whole way. You have no idea what's going to happen, right? That's kind of what life is like, because you don't necessarily know what's going to be around the next corner. So you have to accept those pitfalls, that booby trap, those spikes that are coming out of the ground, whatever it is, the zombie that's chasing, whatever the setback or challenge is that you definitely did not anticipate was going to happen. And are you committed enough to that goal to continue striving and achieve that goal? And if so, good. But how do you get back to that path? What is your steps that you're going to take? So you think about that. Okay, so let's take, for example, I want to work on saving more money, right? Let's say I by summertime, I want to have, X number, fill in the blank, whatever number you want, X number of dollars saved up. Okay, great. That's my goal. Now, on the path, okay, you have to imagine that, okay, well, things are going to happen. Maybe, let's see, the hot water heater goes out in the house. Oh man, that would be tough. Okay, well, how do we get around that? Okay, well, I have to have hot water. You got to be able to shower. You got to be able to have hot water. So, okay, you're gonna have to take the funds for that. Okay, great. And then, okay, well, what if I need new tires on my car? Okay, well, I got to have new tires on my car. So, you just work out those different things that could happen, probably, hopefully won't happen, but might happen. Okay, and if those things happen, okay, I got this much money allocated for this and this much money allocated for that and so on, for this specific goal, and you just work that out. Okay, great, that's what it have to be. And then you say, okay, the hot water heaters maybe is going to be about this much, and new tires, okay, man, oh, wow, okay, yep, those are going to be this much, and oh man, but what about whatever the other, I don't know. I'm trying to spitball and come up with different ideas that might happen. Whatever, I'm sure you can fill in the blank with some other ones because it'll be more relevant to you because you're making this goal. I'm just kind of hypothetically coming up with the situation on the spot. But you work out, okay, I need this much saved up for this much saved up for that, this much saved up for this, and then I still need to have X number saved up. Okay, so great. So you work that out. Okay, then you work backwards and okay, this month I need to save this percentage. This month I need to save this percentage. And you just keep going on that path. And hopefully those things, you don't actually need a new water heater, and hopefully you don't actually need to put new tires in your car. And that would be all that much money more saved because you don't have those things. But if they do, it's okay because you have that idea already worked out. You know what's going to happen, and the plan of action is sort of in the sideline, ready to be pulled into action if and when they happen.
And I think what we're talking about there is realizing, again, the peaks and valleys, knowing that it's going to be great sometimes and not great other times, and how to maintain your motivation and staying committed to those goals. And it reminds me of our conversation with Daniel Hauge and also with Alan Lazarus, when we're talking about the idea of standards. So no matter what, this is what I'm going to do. No matter what, Alan's out there exercising for 30 minutes a day. Exercising looks different. It might not be the same thing every day, but every day he's going to do at least 30 minutes of exercise. And then other days he'll do more. Some days he'll do 45 or an hour and a half. He has a standard though. And as Daniel said, set that standard to something that you can do every day, all the time, no matter what. Even on your worst day, hey, I can get up and I can do 5 squats. Okay, boom, standard, done. Now, you want to be better than that standard, of course. You want to do more than just 5 squats or work out more than just 20 minutes or whatever it is. But that's, I think, is important to helping you stay committed to your goal and kind of help you maintain that motivation. Because if you're just to approach that day and get up and say, you know what, I'm not going to do any squats today. I don't feel like doing any squats. And you don't do any squats. And the next day you said, you know what, I didn't do any yesterday, so I do some today. And then that continues for 4 weeks. And then you look back and say, oh my gosh, I spent a whole month. I abandoned this goal because I wasn't really committed to it. And wasn't something I could maintain. And so I think that's important as well, to have the standards of, listen, I'm not really feeling this today. However, this goal is important to me. I am someone who's going to stick to my goals. Therefore, let me do my standard. So at the end of the day, you can say, you know what? I did something toward this goal, or I did something at least with this mission in mind. And that helps you to maintain that motivation, because it's not like you're completely dropping off and you're holding yourself to that standard, which is, it's huge, I think, mentally, to know that, listen, maybe I didn't do the best today, but I didn't give up. And I think that's hard once you kind of give up and say, you know what, I don't want to do this today. You're not really committed to that goal because you walked away from it, or you gave up in some capacity. And so I like the idea of standards and having that, and how we can deviate from that, because, we've also talked about before, maybe you get up and say, you know what, I feel like crap today. I don't want to do any squats, but I'll do the 5. That's standard. I'll do 5 squats. So you do 5 squats and you think, oh, that wasn't so bad. Let me do 10 more. Oh, you know what? That was okay. I can do another 20. And that motivation that you were lacking earlier came from the action. You did the squats and you found the motivation along the way. And so that's why I think standards are powerful tools that we can use to help us stay committed to our goals, whether that be saving, or whether that be exercising, or, completing tasks toward a larger job that you're trying to finish, or whatever it is. But again, I think the mindset is important, that we are sticking to this thing no matter what. And it doesn't look the same every day. Again, there's peaks and valleys. Some days you're going to do a bunch of work. Some days you'll do the minimal work. You may be somewhere in between. It's not always going to be the same. But again, I think that's important to staying committed to these goals, is constantly taking action toward it. Don't let it be something that's just kind of on the side. Maybe you can automate it, quote unquote, a little bit, where, every day, 9 o'clock, okay, boom, I do this thing. So you don't have to think about it so much as if when you're going to do it, but you're still making the conscious effort at 9 o'clock. I'm doing this thing because I'm committed to this goal. I want to see this through, and I'm not someone who's going to let this kind of fall to the side. And so it is as much a conscious effort as you can make it an unconscious thing that you don't have to think about.
All right. So I got a question for you, and then I want to talk about motivation. Do you have a set of standards for yourself? You don't have to get specific, but do you have a set of standards for yourself that are somewhere where you see daily or weekly or something, and you're checking those boxes? Is that how you interact with those?
I don't have them like written out or planned. I still am. I'm familiar with the idea from people that we've talked with, but I haven't sat down to plan those out yet. No.
So you're in the planning phase for that. I see. Okay.
More like the thinking about it, great idea phase, not the planning or committing to phase. As I admitted at the beginning of this episode, it's not something I'm good at doing, but something I'd like to improve upon.
Okay. So motivation is a tough thing, right? Because in order to work on your goal, it would be nice if you were motivated to work on that goal. It means that you would want to work on that goal. If you are not motivated, does that mean that you cannot work on that goal? No, is the answer. You don't need motivation in order to start the work. What you need to do is start the work. You have to do something towards that goal. And I think this goes back to your idea of standards, where you are committed to doing some work towards whatever that goal is, despite how you feel or interact with the day. And understand that the goal that you want is going to be challenging. It's going to be tough. But Jordan Peterson likes to talk about knights and dragons. And I really like this story, so I'm going to share it with you guys. It's not mine. It's a fable as old as time, sort of say. The knights go after the dragons, right? It's that one warrior who goes and fights the dragons. Dragons are these magical mystery creatures who can breathe fire, giant creatures. But it's the one human, the one warrior that goes up to fight them. Why? Well, it's because they want the lady, or they want the gold, or both, right? The dragon has something that knight wants, or that the village wants, and the village assigns the knight, the warrior, to go and fight the dragon. They fight, they battle. The warrior wins. They get the victory. They get the lady, the girl, and they get the pot of gold. But in order to do that, they have to fight the dragon. They have to willfully confront the huge, daunting task of fighting a literal, in the story, a literal fire-breathing dragon, right? The one person, not a team of people, the one person, the one warrior. So think about yourself as that one warrior. Your dragon, your fire-breathing dragon, is that goal that you want to achieve. You have to understand that it's going to be tough. There's going to be days that you don't want to do anything. There's going to be months probably that you don't want to do anything. No progress at all. Especially if that goal, if that dragon is so big and so daunting and something that you would not otherwise achieve. Because why? Why would you want to do that? Well, it's because that's what we as humans were born to do. We were born to do the tough things. You don't want to just stay in one spot, sit in a chair and let life pass you by. You want to go and make those things happen for yourself. So you willfully confront the thing that is most challenging to you. Whatever that goal is, set your goal, set them high. Make it something crazy. And if you achieve that thing, wow. But if you achieve 5 steps down from that, still, wow. Much further than you would otherwise be, because you took it upon yourself to answer the call to that challenge and face it head on and put the work in to do it. You have to be committed to doing the work, right? You can't just sit down and say, okay, yep, I'm going to have this goal and it's going to come to me and drink my coffee. And all right, anytime now that goal is going to happen. No, that's not how that works. And if you set a goal that's going to happen to you already, I use this example all the time. If you're contracted at work, your salary tells you you're going to get $50,000 or $500,000 or whatever it is. You can't set that as your goal. That is inevitable. It's going to happen, providing you don't lose your job. You're going to have that. You're going to have that quote unquote victory. But that's not a victory. That's just what's going to happen. You have to set your sights higher than that. You have to set your sights higher than that, because otherwise you're going to achieve something that you would already have achieved. It's just going to be normal. That's not something that you want. You want it to be tough. You want it to be a fire-breathing dragon, something immense, challenging for you to face head on. And then you do the work to do that. It's going to be tough. It's going to stretch your comfort zone, right? We don't want to live inside that bubble. That's going to be boring. You're going to get old and life is going to pass you by. You didn't make anything happen for yourself. Stretch your comfort zone, push your boundaries, do more than what you already are doing. Of course, that's what you want. That's what you want. You want the challenge. You want the goal that's at the end of the challenge. You want that pot of gold. Well, in order to get that pot of gold, what do you have to do? You have to become the warrior and fight the dragon. Yes, the fire-breathing dragon, head on purpose, committed to achieve your victory, whatever that may be.
That's inspiring. Yeah, I think, again, the main thing to take away from that is you have to choose every day to fight that battle. You have to choose every day to make the progress toward that thing. And I think that's where it's, it sounds easy. Say, wake up and say, all right, let me do this thing. It's simple, but not always easy, depending on the situation. And I think that's important to help you maintain your motivation and, more importantly, stay committed to that goal. Because, like you said, those big goals that you should have for yourself are not going to be easy, but you're going to have to put the work in. No one's going to do the work for you. You're going to have to commit to it and decide to do that yourself. And, we talked at the beginning, I said that I'm not quite good at doing this, but there are things that I can put in place. And I know we've talked about it in several episodes already, but I'm a very big proponent, and I really like to have like routines. I really like to have like set plans and stuff like that. And so, if I find myself falling back or falling off of goals or not being as consistent with whatever it is, I make a routine, I make a plan, and I stick to that plan, and sometimes it is kind of muscle memory or robot movements where it's like, all right, here's what time it is, here's what I do, and let me get this done. But that consistency, I think, helps me get back on track and staying committed to those goals, because I do the same thing toward that goal every day, maybe the standard. Either way, I'm still trying to get it done, and I can fall back in that routine and not have to think about it so much because I already have it planned out. I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. Okay, as long as I check all those boxes, I know that I did a little bit of work toward that goal, and I'm not waiting for the motivation to hit me, because it doesn't matter if I'm motivated or not. I just do the thing, I don't have to think about what's next or what I should do. And so I think that's another useful tool, as among many other different tools that we can use to help us stay committed to our goals and push past the challenges and setbacks that inevitably are going to come. And then again, we can kind of plan for those, and I can know that, hey, listen, if I find myself falling off in this capacity, implement X, Y, or Z routine, or implement this plan, and already have it ready to go. That way, it's again not something you have to think about, and you can kind of stop that before it kind of snowballs out of control.
Another thing that we have yet to talk about is reflection. Okay, how does reflection work into this? Well, you can think about the challenges that you have already faced, the challenges that you've already overcame, in order to continually have progress towards achieving whatever it is that you want, right? So if you can think about those things that, hey, look at this, I've already done this, and I've already done this, and I've already done this, and you think about those things, that will give you more motivation, more encouragement, more drive to continue achieving whatever it is. You don't want to come 98% of the way to achieving the goal and say, I'm done. It's too tough now. You've already went 98%. Yeah, but the next 2% is too hard. I can't do that. So you're just going to quit and give up? Yeah, I'm done. No, what? That'd be silly. Who would do that? Well, lots of people all around. The part is they don't put it into perspective, right? So by reflecting back, thinking about your journey that you've already been on so far, right? Because let's think about goal for a second. The goal isn't necessarily that shiny thing, right? That shiny thing doesn't necessarily tell you who you are. Really, what achieving that does is that puts you on the journey to achieve that thing, right? It's not necessarily, it's not that one thing that made you have that goal. It's all of the small things that led up to that, right? So achieving the goal is great. It's wonderful. But really, it's the journey that you have to go through in order to achieve that goal that puts you as the type of person who can achieve that goal. It's the journey. And if you come 98% of the way through the journey, now, granted, that's far. And if that is as far as you can make it, that's great, because you're 98% better than where you were if you wouldn't have done that. You did 98% of the work to achieve. So you're 98% of the way to achieve that thing, which is awfully good. If you can push yourself to go just a little bit further, then you can be that thing, right? So in to put this into a little bit different perspective, as martial arts instructors, we see people time and time again, they get to right before black belt, and they think, you know what, that's enough, I'm done. What? If you went another 6 months, you'd be done. Half a year. Sometimes it's less than that. You're right there. No, I don't want to do it. I'm done. You're at the black belt. Now, if you're listening and you're a martial artist, okay, I understand black belt is like a white belt. I fully get that. But that's a huge milestone. And people have that as a major goal for them. I want to be a black belt. Okay, great. They get so close. And then, yeah, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do it. It's too hard. It's too boring. I don't want to do, whatever it is. Okay, but you're right there. You're 98%. That's it. That's it. You're done. Yeah. So then you go on for the rest of your days and say, yeah, I was almost a black belt. Almost, but I quit a little early. What? No, that's going to be not something that you're boastfully telling people about. Although if you went another couple percentage, if you went that other 6 months, yeah, I made a black belt. I'm a black belt. That's something you can say that you are. And again, it's not that thing. It's not about that thing. It's not about that piece of fabric that we tie around your waist. It's not that thing. It's the journey that led you to there, that changed who you were from the beginning to the end. Now, that person that made it 6 months away, 98% of the way, they're still much further, much better than they would have been otherwise. But they're so close to being able to have that thing that they were committed to, for so long. So if that's you, if you're 98% of the way, look back. Reflect back. Think about the things that you have already done. Think about the challenges you've already overcame. Think about the opportunities that you had to miss out on in order to stay committed to achieve that thing. And was that all a waste? Was it all for naught? Or are you going to stay committed to do the extra few percentage to make it to achieve that major milestone, whatever it is, the goal that you're after? Hopefully you can stay committed and make that major milestone. Again, if you can't, understand that you still made it 98%. You're 98% better in that area than you would otherwise be. But if you can go just a little bit further, then you achieved that goal. Think about how much better that would be.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's powerful.
I don't know. I think we answered the question for today. What do you think?
I agree. Yeah, I enjoyed the back and forth and different facets of it. I think that it's important to remember that we're all going to struggle with peaks and valleys, but you can anticipate that and set your expectations right, and set routines or plans in the way, and it comes down to that your commitment. Decide to be that knight that's going to fight that dragon, and continue to show up every day. And I like how you said in that, the last point you were making there, that the goal that you're setting needs to be, I think, some sustainability. And so, as much as you're talking about getting so far in your goal, I think that depending on what it is, your goal could just be every day I'm going to do the standard. Not necessarily, hey, I'm going to, in 8 months, I'm going to be able to do 500 squats a day. Okay, maybe you could do that, but then after you do 500 squats a day, are you going to do a squat ever again? Probably not. But if your goal is, hey, every day I'm going to do at least 5 squats, if that's your goal, that's something you can maintain for a long time. And I don't think it's going to fall off, because your goal isn't this one thing. Your goal is just to be a person that can do squats. And that's a silly example, but again, assess and think about what your goals are. Think about how far you've come, and think about the progress you have made, and kind of look back on that and decide, hey, why am I doing this? Am I doing this so I can do 800 squats? Or am I doing this so that I can continue to stay active and be part of, or be someone who can move around a little bit, and it's beneficial for me to be exercising, things like that. Just a small tidbit on that. But yes, I agree. I think there's many strategies and tools that we can use to kind of maintain motivation and continue staying committed to our goals. Some work that I can do personally toward making this not so much of a setback for myself, but beneficial information for sure.
Well, so last thing I'll leave you with is, if you don't have some sort of support team, some sort of cheering squad that's there to help you when the challenges and setbacks happen, I would encourage you to do that. Whether it's a family member, or you have a accountability coach, or you have a one-on-one coach that's helping you achieve those goals. Having somebody there in your corner to help motivate you and encourage you, or to hold you accountable for if you didn't do those things, I think is very helpful, and can be sometimes the difference between achieving that thing or only make it 98%. And you don't have to say as something different as this episode that we did say to answer this question. This was fun. I like doing this.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Yeah. Hey, if you like this episode as well, let us know. Leave us a comment, and maybe we'll do something like this again in the future. Until next time, stay inspired for greatness.